going to talk about winter fishing. We're going to talk about tournament fishing. We're going to talk about doing all of it with your electronics with one of the guys that knows more about electronics. I mean, this is a tech expert in the world of bass fishing. Mr. Justin Hamner just qualified for the Bassmaster Elite Series. We're going to talk with him live, along with all those other topics. As you guys get in here tonight, do me a favor. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up if you enjoy these podcasts. Hey, and also be sure and comment so we know who we're talking to. If you guys have questions while we're going through this tonight with Justin Hamner, be sure that you ask your questions. I will get to as many of them live. I'll ask him any questions that I can get to from you guys while we're on the phone live with him. I see a few folks starting to trickle in now, so y'all drop those comments. Let me know who we got here tonight. Should be a great podcast tonight. You know, we always like to talk a little bit about current conditions, and current conditions are tough. I mean, this is tough weather. It's tough just to get out there and stay out in it all day when it gets as cold as it's about to be this week. It's going to be tough fishing. But that being said, it's a time of year where you can catch some really big bass. Hey, we're going to have a video tomorrow. You're going to see some big bass, just one especially. Last week we had some good quality fish that got caught. That is part of the nature of winter fishing. It's tough on you mentally, it's tough on you physically, but the quality bites are 1000% there to be had if you can stay focused and stay within yourself and get after it. So cold front this weekend, blew through, screwed us up. This next week we're going to have to grind them to find them, as they say. We've got a couple folks dropping comments. Michael McDaniel says fork was tough today. David Cole says, what's up, David Cole? All right, so there we go. Sorry, this one may be a little patchy. I'm missing my partner in crime that keeps me flowing and keeps me on topic. Chris Blackman's not here tonight, unfortunately, so this may be a little bit more hit or miss as far as the flow of it. Chris usually keeps me on topic and keeps me lined out. He doesn't always talk a whole bunch during the podcast, but he does a lot more of keeping me on track than you guys realize. So we're going to miss Chris tonight. Chance Lopez in the house, as I was able to catch a few decent ones today in the morning. That's great. Conroe wasn't giving. Yeah, guys, I mean, these are tough conditions, no doubt about it. It is what it is. I don't want to just keep beating the dead horse. But, hey, one thing I'm excited about is tomorrow's video. We're going to talk about electronics with Justin Hamner tonight. Justin Hamner is a really good friend with Patrick Walters, who we've had on the show before the week after he won the Bassmaster Elite Series Texas Fest on this. And just put Skeeter Bug over there, the fishing pup. Yeah, that's another call. That'd be great. But Patrick Walters won that Elite Series using the Garmin Live Scope as well as Humminbird 360 and other electronics. So these two young guys are really, really good with electronics. Hamner and Walters have fished together a lot, so we're going to really dig into that. But I'm really excited about a video we've got coming out tomorrow on this channel because I'm starting kind of a little series, and I'm going to get them done as fast as I can. But the first episode of this series is going to go out tomorrow. We're going to be breaking down the different brands of electronics. I went out in my buddy BJ Anderson's boat, and he has the Humminbird 360. We utilized the Humminbird 360 to find some really dynamic structure and cover. We were able to catch some fish using it. We also broke down all the settings, how you can adjust them, and I give a full and honest review about everything that I could find on that Humminbird 360 throughout that day. I'll tell you the good and the bad. It's an honest gig when I go through it in that video. You know, there was a lot of things that I really liked, and it was really, really impressive what that 360 could do and could show you. There was also some things that I didn't like at all. So I just I give the honest feedback. That's what we like to do around here. I've got somebody, listen, we all love Jesus around here. Somebody's talking about Jesus in the comments. Yeah, we love Jesus. I appreciate the Jesus comments. I've never seen you on here before, but don't yell at me just because I didn't respond to your comment right away, folks. This is a podcast. It's not, I can't just respond to comments the whole time. I've never been harassed so much. This is so aggressive with the Jesus. I mean, I love Jesus too, but do it with some love in your heart. Don't be so aggressive. You never know what you're going to get in YouTube comments. That is a fact. All right, let me make sure. I think I don't have too much else to talk about. Let's get the process of getting Justin Hamner on this phone here. And y'all bear with me just 1 minute. I got to pull it. I did it again. I got to pull his phone number up on this phone. All right, guys. I think I'm back live. Y'all let me know. Somebody comment, let me know.
Hello.
Mr. Justin Hamner, how you doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing good, buddy. How are you?
Man, I'm doing just lovely. A little bit colder than I want to be. So I want to make sure we're back live. Yet we got people saying we're back live. I had to disrupt the live stream for a minute because I forgot to put your phone number in the phone I was calling you on. That's just pretty normal. It's kind of a train wreck around here at all times.
That's my favorite part about fishing. You just gotta go with the flow.
That's it. It's sometimes best when you got 35 rods and 15 pieces of tackle on the floor, right?
That's the only way I know. That means I'm dialed in.
I know you show up and people are like, man, that guy that's got 2 rods on the deck of his boat, that's the dude you got to watch out for. I'm like, bro, I ain't never, ever had less than 10 on the deck of my boat, ever.
Never. You never know. I might not pick it up, but if I need to, I ain't digging around in that rod box.
Yeah. I'm not, like, tying knots is my least favorite part of fishing, so let's tie as little as possible while we're out there.
Yeah, let's not try to tie an FG knot in the middle of a derb.
In the middle of a derb. I love it. I love it. Man, well, dude, first of all, I guess start right here. Congratulations, brother. Bassmaster Elite Series. How's that feel?
Man, thank you so much. It's been a lifelong goal of mine. I know everybody says that, but it truly has. I mean, I can't say how happy and excited I am to get this rolling.
Yeah, it's going to be, and now you guys have got the schedule out so you can kind of see where you're going. First glance at the schedule, what are you looking forward to the most and what are you looking forward to the least about 2021 Elite Series?
I mean, I'd be crazy to say I'm not excited about the 3 tournaments in Alabama. I mean, I've fished all of those so many times. I mean, that's going to be nice. But at the same time, I think that might be what I'm looking forward to the least. Because you know how the local knowledge and history can haunt you so much. But, you know, I'm really excited about just, you know, like Fork and St. Lawrence River, 2 places that I haven't been yet. And, man, I can't wait to get over there. I heard y'all got a couple 2 or 3 pounders, something like that.
We got 1 or 10 of them big and swimming around out there in Lake Fork, man. It's an amazing lake, and when you really consider, and you're a lifelong tournament fisherman, you're a lifelong fan of tournament fishing, I'm sure. And when you look at the history of Lake Fork and the brief history really in professional tournament fishing, I mean, we had the Toyota Texas Bass Classic a few times, I think 4 times over the years, maybe 5. But other than that, Bassmaster's been here 2 or 3 times. In MLF, the Bass Pro Tour has been here once, and that's it. And you compare that to lakes, the other lakes that are the same stature of legend status of Fork, Okeechobee, Rayburn, Gunnersville, Clear Lake, all these other lakes that are like that reputation-wise, Toledo Bend. The tours have been there 100 times, 50 times, I don't know, a bunch. And then you look and you consider the fact that even though we've only had that many opportunities, the biggest 3 days of tournament fishing that's ever happened on the professional level was the 2014 Toyota Texas Bass Classic. Keith Combs, 110 pounds. 110 pounds in 3 days. It's just unbelievable the way that lake, A, kicks out the giants, but B, maintains itself and holds up to the pressure over the years.
That's what's truly amazing. I really think that what, you know, Texas Parks and Wildlife, they're doing just an outstanding job, because there's nowhere else like that. There's nobody that puts in as much time and effort into keeping it that great of a fishery. That's what's got to be doing it.
Yeah, Texas Parks and Wildlife. I mean, you guys know it better than we do because y'all travel all over the country and fish a lot more so than someone like me does. But Texas Parks and Wildlife is the best outdoors department when it comes to wildlife management across the country, in my opinion.
Hands down. I mean, like you said, I've been everywhere, you know, all over this place, and there's just nobody that truly cares about their bass fishing, it seems like, more than them. And I hope, you know, places like Alabama, that they realize it and kind of take note and step it up a little bit, because, you know, Gunnersville, it still does produce and puts them out, but it's not at the level that Texas seems to really be doing it.
Yeah, you know, I think that some of the other outdoor departments are taking notice of some of that stuff. If you look at some of the things that have gone on in Tennessee and in Georgia, some similar type deals with the Florida strain bass stockings that have really helped lakes like Chickamauga and some of those lakes like that.
Absolutely, and I wish we could continue that process because I mean it's great once you get them in and once they're established, but at some point you would think that maybe they need a little bit of help.
Yeah.
Again, let's keep rolling with it.
Absolutely.
Too many fish is never a bad thing.
No, we don't worry about it. If y'all overstock it, we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I promise you that.
That's right. Absolutely. 100% agree. So, one thing I do want to talk to you about tonight is just kind of you, man, because in all honesty, I know a little bit about you from this year, from watching, following the Opens, tracking what I could on the Opens, just brief discussions with your buddy Patrick Walters, and just a couple of them. But before that, Justin Hamner's not necessarily a name that's been at the forefront of bass fishing. So a lot of our listeners over here in Texas, man, they're not going to really know your story. So tell me about yourself, how long you've been chasing this tournament trail dream, where it started for you and kind of where you come from.
Okay, well, I'm from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I mean, I've been fishing these tournaments, since I was a kid. My dad had me out there when I was 6 and 7 years old, trying to teach me how to use a bait caster. And really, our home lake is what I say is what made me, because it's such a terrible lake. I mean, 7-8 pounds winds here all the time. It's amazing how bad it is. So, but I think that's what really made me what I am, because very versatile and not scared to grind out a tournament. But we have all these lakes in Alabama that, I mean, Gunnersville to Smith Lake to, I mean, you hear it all the time how versatile it is, and it's just truly a blessing to be able to grow up around here and have that type of place. But I started doing the tournament deal when I was, I guess, in my teens. I started doing the junior divisions, I guess, before they had all the high school stuff. We did the state juniors, and I won the state championship a few times, and that's when it really kind of set in. Hey, I want to chase this dream, and but I fished FOW, I think, in 2016 or 17, not sure. Actually, it's 18. I'm sorry, I got a little plaque right here, but it was 2018. Started fishing it, trying to go that route, just because I couldn't get into the Bass Opens back then. But and then so did that for 2 years, and then finally got the chance to go over to the Opens last year, and did pretty good in it. And this year, obviously, everything worked out. Yeah. But it's been a fun ride. I mean, to say it's hard, I think is an understatement. Especially a guy like me working 2 jobs, trying to make ends meet, got a family back home. It's been crazy year, no doubt.
I think that's something that most people don't truly realize and understand as fans of the sport. I think there's a lot of people that see guys like yourself that qualify for the Elite Series. I don't know that they always realize that most of you guys have other jobs.
Absolutely. I mean, because as much as I would like to say, hey, sponsors just, throwing money out everywhere, that is not the case, and I'm really learning it now, trying to scratch up enough money to get these entry fees paid for the elites. But absolutely, and taking a big risk. I had a great job, working for the University of Alabama for 5 years, and I mean, I just couldn't get the off time and stuff I needed if I really wanted to give a shot at chasing my dream. So, went out and had to do what I had to do, and I started my own little landscape and lawn care business, and I was doing that when I was getting off, work for pouring concrete all day. So it's been a fun time, but hey, it's all worth it.
It's all worth it, man. It really is. It's a unique deal because even at the professional level, most sports you get to the professional level, you're all in. There's nothing else to focus on. You can dedicate all of your time to it and so forth. But in bass fishing, man, until you're really at the very, very, very top of the heap, you pretty much got to pay your bills elsewhere to get there. It's really gambling until you become one of the best in the world.
Absolutely. I mean, and even at the Elite Series level, it's crazy. Some of the guys we've talked to that, I mean, they really struggle trying to make ends meet. I mean, let's face it, not everybody's going to win, every tournament. It's really hard to do it, but I don't know. We're going to give it a shot, I can tell you that. That's what's cool about this sport, though, to me, is if it was for the money, I don't think anybody would be in it, because, I mean, you've really got to have that passion for the sport, and that's what's really unique, I think.
It definitely does keep the class of pros that we have at the very top level. They're a little bit more humble than they would be in other sports. It really is a much more truer love of the game than you might get. Like, there's a lot of guys that just are really gifted athletically that might play basketball or football or something like that, that they may really like it, but they don't truly love it. Everybody that's on the professional level of bass fishing, they truly love it because they spend a lot of time working at an unbelievable obsessive rate for nothing. So they must be in love with the sport.
Absolutely. You could not have said it any better.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel the same way about guiding. People ask me all the time, people think that being a bass fishing guide is some awesome, glorious job, and I wouldn't want to do I love what I do. Without a doubt, unequivocally, I love what I do. But when people ask me, how do you become a guide, how you get into guiding, I'll say, well, the first thing you need to do is look in the mirror and you need to figure out, do you really, really, really like fishing, or do you love it on an obsession type level? Because if you don't love it on an obsession type level, when you start having to do it every single day, it's going to ruin it for you. Like tomorrow, it's going to be a high of 40 with some decent little wind blowing. Like, that's not fun for most people.
And there's not any calling in sick just because it's kind of raining outside.
Right.
No, we go and rain, shine, it don't matter.
Absolutely, man. It's something you got to do. And then on your end of it, if you want to compete against guys like Patrick and guys, the 100, what do y'all got now? 100 guys out there? 80? Y'all had 85?
Yeah, I think we're going to have 100 this year.
100. So, yeah, if you want to compete against the 99 other guys that are the best in the world, guess what? They're going to fish every single day. They can physically get on the water no matter what the weather's doing. And if you're not doing the same thing they're doing, staying up on your skills and keeping yourself tuned up and sharp, and you're going to go out there and get your butt whipped.
Absolutely. No doubt. Every day that you're not out on the water, I mean, I love to get as much information as I can. There's no doubt about that. Between there's so much information out these days, and that's what's so awesome. But until you're out on the water actually putting it to real world test, I mean, you've got to do it. And if you're not doing it, you're getting left behind.
Yep, absolutely. And speaking of that, I do want to get into the electronics discussion with you, and I want to get into some winter fishing discussion with you. Right now, I want to look at a couple comments because we are live. So I'm going to see if there's any questions that anybody's asking for you. Bear with me while I read through a couple comments here. All right, so we got some questions about reels. How about this one? What's the best reel for the price? What's your opinion?
To me, that Daiwa Tatula, that Tatula line is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, what sold me, I guess, is how you can throw such light baits. I mean, because you can throw a floating worm, I mean, like it's nothing, and then turn around and, bomb a 6XD a mile. Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
It's great. It means a lot for a reel when it can throw light baits. When you can, it's an advantage to be able to put really light baits like that on a bait caster setup versus having to go to spinning rod. Like when you have a quality bait caster that will throw a weightless floating worm or something like that, you just have such an advantage when you hook a fish on those.
Absolutely, I agree. And that's what's. I mean, there's so many great reels and rods out there. There's no doubt about it. But that's definitely been my favorite. I can tell you that.
And most of the comments we're getting right now are affirmation comments. Yes, they understand how tough it is, or they agree with how tough it is to make it as a professional fisherman and as a guide. So we're both getting the love, so that's good. And Big C's asking, you talking about the Tatula Elite?
Well, the Elites and the TWS, I think they have them for about $179. Man, that's a hard reel to beat, and they are about bulletproof. I mean, I've had I've had some for 2 years, which I know that's not a terrible long time, but
But the way you use them,
fishing exactly fishing as much as I do, I have put them through the ringer, and I mean, I just don't have any problems with them.
yeah, I'm on the
Pretty incredible.
I'm on the lose team, and that's how I feel about the lose. Is that I guide, and I've been running lose for a couple of years now, and I've had zero reel failures. I'm just like, man, the durability of these to have 3 people in the boat, 250 days a year slinging them, like,
Yeah, I mean
golly.
it's pretty incredible when you have something that's like that,
Yep.
because real quickly when you have one that won't cut that.
Absolutely, yeah. They tell you find out quick. Now, just to not be the sponsor plug guy, I will say if somebody's looking for like a cheap reel, one of my favorites before I was on the lose team was it was called a Daiwa CC80, and it was like a really cheap reel. I want to say it was like 50 or $60 or something like that on Tackle Warehouse, and it was a really light reel that was very good durability on the level that myself and Justin are fishing. It could be an issue over time, but as far as just a cheap reel for a recreational fisherman, it was great.
Oh, absolutely. And man, I mean, I wish I did have the sponsorship, and hopefully soon we're gonna make one happen. But I gotta lose when they first came back into the real market. It's like maybe that first year I got one, and I promise you, it's still on one of my flipping setups.
Yeah, they hold up, man.
It is just bad. I mean, I think it's from 10, 15 years ago. I don't know. The gears are a little rough. I probably need to clean it, but
yeah,
I think it ain't going nowhere.
Speaking of that, let me ask you this, because I never clean or oil my. I don't do anything with my reels. I just go fishing with them every day. Do you do anything reel maintenance wise?
I try to, because I mean it does make a huge difference as far as, because the one thing that drives me nuts is when you start feeling it kind of grinding a little bit, and but really all I do is just grease them up, put some new grease in there, she's good to go.
That's right. There you go. I'm a low maintenance kind of guy. Sounds like you are too. So
yeah, very low maintenance. I like to fish.
yeah. I don't want to spend time working on stuff or tying knots. Put all the rods on the deck and let's go. Whichever one will work, we'll pick it up and throw it.
Send it.
That's right. So, man, your buddy Patrick Walters put on, I mean, just one of the greatest exhibitions of all time when they were down here at Lake Fork, and he was utilizing electronics. It looked like he was utilizing primarily the Garmin Live Scope from the footage and the way we could see it. So my question to you is, what is your ideal electronic setup going into next year? And if there's some kind of sponsor deal in the works that you can't answer, just let me know. But what's your ideal setup as far as electronics on your boat go?
Well, I'll just go ahead and be honest with you. I'm working on electronics deal, and there's right now only one electronics deal that I could do, and it's Garmin. I mean, I would love to run Lowrance and Garmin, because I love, the user friendliness of the Lowrances.
Yes.
Because, I mean, it's just awesome. But, obviously they're not going to allow you to run boat. They don't want to see that Garmin on the front, but I can promise you my boat ain't going to go out there without a Garmin.
So
it's just the way it is right now.
If you could only have one brand of electronics, you're hands down picking Garmin.
Yes, sir.
Got to have that live scope. There's no hope without the scope.
It's not. It's sad to say that, but I mean, it's something that when you are using it, or when the time is right, if you don't have it, you're gonna get beat, and there's just no way around it. It's amazing what the things it can do, and I'm excited to see all these other brands coming out with it too. But it's hopefully Lowrance can step it up a little bit and get in there.
Yeah, Lowrance released their active target. Was it last Friday? A week ago Friday, Lowrance released active target, and I've seen some video stuff from some guys, David Dudley and Shryock, and a couple guys, Shaw Grigsby, put stuff out there. I haven't put my name or put my eyes on it yet in person. But
that's the test.
Yes, and you got to see it in person. You got to use it to see what it really can do. Man, I'm gonna tell you, from
Absolutely.
what I can see right off the bat on the video that I'm seeing, it does not look like the image quality on the active target is going to be as good as the Garmin.
Is there any way I can scream through a video for them to change, like, some settings on it?
Yeah.
Seeing all this video, that's one thing I would like to see, some of the guys turn up the gain or, to see what it is capable of or some of the range and things like that. But absolutely, it's just one of them things you've got to get out there and use it, know what it can do.
We got a good question for you right here. Big C asks, can Justin Hamner talk about his adopting Jay Yellis as his role model?
Oh, man, that is funny. So I did a project when I was in, what was it, 5th grade? Something like that. Man, it was a long time ago. Elementary school. And they said, who do you want as a role model? And Jay Ellis had just won the Classic that year. Hey,
Who else?
that's my man. So I did a whole little project about my role model being Jay Ellis. Nobody knew who it was, of course, besides me and my dad, I guess. But that was pretty awesome.
Man, that's great. I tell you, Jay Ellis has spent a lot of time in this part of the woods right around here real close. And I got to tell you, it's ironic that you picked him as the role model. It was the year he won the Classic because as far as reputations go, that guy's got about as good a one as it comes. I mean, he is a good Christian man that does things the right way.
I'm telling you, and that's one thing that I could still say. That's the way he's done it and the way he's still doing it. I mean, like you said, such a good guy and, just a true ambassador of the sport and what the sport is really about.
That's great stuff. Chris asked, why not skip an electronic sponsorship and use whatever you would want?
Well, that's probably the way it's going to go.
Okay.
But I mean, Garmin's come out with some new technology that their side and down imaging looks great. So, I mean, it's expensive.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I need all the help I can get. I can promise you that on that end of the thing. But I would love to work with a brand because Garmin, they're obviously putting in time and doing research and things like that. But yeah, it's looking like I'm going to be. Heck, I might even have Humminbird thrown in there for some 360 imaging.
Well, that's ironic. I just talked about it a little bit in the beginning of the video. I've got so what I'm doing, a little bit of backstory. We're going to tell a little story here. I made a financial decision just like one that you're having to consider making right now. And it was last year when I ordered my boat. Originally, I ordered it with Garmin electronics on it, with 2 Lowrances and a Garmin and a live scope on the front. And so as I got close to getting that boat, as it was being built, I was able to, through my boat dealer, they got me a little bit of a deal with Lowrance. And they also informed me that the way that I film my videos, that I can't have no live scope on the front deck if I want that Lowrance deal. So I made the decision to not go with the live scope. And Lowrance, I had no experience with any of it. This was all a year ago, like right at a year ago. I had very little experience with live scope. One day in a customer's boat, that was it. And so I made that decision. I was like, well, Lowrance has, their sonar version of live. We'll try that and see how that goes. And so that's what I did. I've regretted that decision so much this year. So much this year. Yes.
It's not that good. You got it.
It saved me, a good amount of money, a lot of money to go with that Lowrance deal. But I would rather give that money up and have that live scope all year. And so now what I'm doing is I'm going around and getting in buddies' boats that have everything. I just got a video coming out tomorrow where I got in my buddy's boat that had a Humminbird 360, and we broke it all the way down, jacked with the settings. I got full run to use it however I wanted to that day. And so I'm trying to do that with all 3 brands. I want to get in a live scope boat. I want to try to get in a Lowrance active target boat if I can find one before I make the decision. I've got another boat ordered now, and it'll be coming in January, so I've got to hustle up on this deal. But I'm trying to go through all the electronic brands and figure out what exact electronics do I need. And if it costs me my deal with Lowrance, it costs me my deal with Lowrance.
It does. I mean, and I feel like that's just the kind of the way it is right now, because if you don't have what's out there and what's capable for everybody to use. I mean, it does suck that you can't, may not have that deal, but you win one tournament, and
Yep.
I hate to say it, but that's way more money than that deal would have been.
Absolutely, 100% it is. And man, I think, I've said this. I believe it was on one of our other podcasts, but it almost feels like the future of electronic sponsorships is going to come from dealers and not brands. Where a Justin Hamner is going to get sponsored by what's your local boat dealer that would install and do electronics work for you?
Yeah, L&L Marine.
So L&L Marine. L&L Marine sponsors Justin Hamner, and they hook him up on some electronics for him to do some plug-in and sponsor stuff for them. And that way Justin Hamner can get whatever combination of electronics he wants from L&L. And that seems to me like where the future of electronic sponsorships might be headed.
Yes, sir. That's pretty great idea. So you got contact for Russell Marine by any chance?
I don't. I don't.
We can make this happen now.
Yeah, I could send you over to Nautical Mile, the dealer I deal with. That's who I'm gonna be begging and borrowing from which I'm gonna for sure have a Garmin LiveScope on my next boat. So the Lowrance deal is gone. So I will be Nautical Mile, Chris Knight, Joe. If y'all are watching, guess what? I'm gonna be coming to beg y'all for a different sponsorship deal.
Absolutely. And to me, like, the thing about that whole deal is I still feel like I could, advertise and promote a company like Lowrance, because they have technology that I want to use that is great, that I feel like other people should be using. But just because I have a Garmin on my boat, I don't see why it hurts, because if I'm fishing and, if they're biting a 10XD crankbait, but I'm sponsored by a different company that doesn't make a crankbait that goes 25 foot deep, I mean, I'm going to use the 25-foot deep crankbait.
Yeah. Well,
and that's just part of it.
Listen, everybody that's sponsored by a plastics company still has Kytex in their boat.
Exactly.
I mean, they do.
I mean, it's not like I'm preferring their brand over the same technology. It's because that technology is only available through them. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's one thing. It kind of ain't no good, but it's part of it.
It's a confusing time as a professional, and and I'm not a professional tournament fisherman like you guys are, but my job is fishing, and I do get sponsorship deals through social media content, and so I deal with some of the same things. You got to be careful what you say and how you say it. Like, you don't want to mess anything up, because at the end of the day, this is a business, and it is our obligation to feed our families the best we can, and we're trying to do it doing something we love. So you got to be careful how you say things, and it's not that you want to be misleading or dishonest in any way, but man, it's part of the game, and it's such a unique time in the history of bass fishing where we've always had new technology being developed in the sport, but I don't know that we've had as dynamic of a shift in how dramatic the difference is between having it and not having it.
Absolutely. I mean, it is crazy. And at some point you got to think, when will it stop? But who knows? And I mean, if it's out there and other anglers are using it, you've got to do it.
Yeah, and I don't think that the technology of being able to find and actually actively see fish, I don't think that needs to be limited.
I don't either.
You still have to catch the fish. I mean, unless we're going to outlaw sight fishing, because guess what? In the springtime, I can see them.
Yep.
And
exactly.
It doesn't mean I'm going to catch them.
And I can promise you, if you go out there with that live scope and, not knowing what you're doing, you can waste your whole day looking at wad of catfish.
Yeah.
I can promise you, I've done it. I see them, I know they're there, I'm going to make them bite somehow, and then you finally get that, set the hook, oh, I got that sucker, and it starts rolling, like, well, yep, there went about 4 hours.
Yeah, I talked to a buddy of mine that guides out on Fork that's been running the live scope all year, and he told me, he was like, man, it's... He goes, there's days when it's great and you're catching fish that other people aren't seeing, and it works out wonderful. And you feel like you've got the world beat. He goes, and then there's days where you waste the majority of your day chasing fish that aren't going to bite. And you can kind of get lost in that live scope trying to catch fish that you can see that just aren't either set up right or you're just not going to catch them. Period.
Yep.
It's
and that's the hardest thing. I mean, and I'm still learning. Nobody's perfected it yet, but there's times that I've got to just cut it off. Because if I'm trying to fish shallow or something like that, if you waste so much time sometimes staring at fish that just won't bite.
Yeah, and I say all that just to bring around the point of there's no reason to ban the technology. Seeing the fish, knowing where he is right now does not guarantee that you're going to catch him. So I don't think that we'll ever get to a point of banning technology. Speaking of banning technology, this is something that I feel the need to ask people when we bring this topic up. Years ago, Paul Elias killed it on the Alabama rig in a late fall FLW event, and then the big tours banned the Alabama rig. Do you think that was a mistake? Do you think they should have not banned it?
I don't think they. I mean, I don't know that subject. I mean, I feel like any lures or baits that are out there, if everybody can use it, and more power to it. I don't know. I mean, me personally, I'm fine with it being banned, just because you would see a lot of tournaments where that was pretty much the only thing people were throwing there for a while.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm either way on that, because I'm not against an Alabama rig. It is fun to throw. I love it, but it is what it is. I guess I would be happy either way.
Yeah.
I promise you, I'd be throwing it if it wasn't banned.
Right. Yeah. But you'd be throwing it at times. Not. That's the thing about. To me, it's not an end all to be all. It's not like every tournament's going to get one on Alabama rig if you make it legal. So that to me means it probably shouldn't have been banned, because it's a great bait, and when it's right, yeah, you better be throwing it.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's just.
Go ahead.
Oh, you're right. I mean, it's just another tool that, when it's its time, it has its time, and it does it better than anything else. So, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yep, and it's like that for every bait. I mean, there's times where if you're not throwing a jerk bait, you're probably not going to win.
Yep, I like those times.
You and Patrick and them dang jerk baits.
Oh man, it's just such a good look. I mean, it just catches fish. There's no doubt about it. But I think the biggest thing is confidence, man. I just got confidence in it. And
there's something.
When you have confidence in a bait like that, it's just.
There's something about that jerk bait, and there's a few baits in bass fishing that are just forever staples that will always be here. Jerk bait's one of them. There's something about that jerk bait when you work it correctly. There's something inside of a bass that is unable to resist the reaction qualities of that bait. It's going to react to it. And when it slaps at it with 9 points of death hanging off of it, he's done.
And those 9 points of death have been the death of me several times too. But.
Yeah. When they fail you, yeah, that's a bad deal. Another bait to me that's like that is a jig, man. There's something about a jig and the way that skirt acts on the bottom, even when it's sitting still sometimes. When that skirt flares out and that jig gets wide, that's just something that a bass isn't really able to say no to at times.
I don't know what it is, and I still haven't seen anything, out there that really looks exactly like a jig. But man, they are just mad at it. It's awesome.
We got Seabach in here commenting. He says, in my opinion, live scope is helpful for offshore fishermen, and Mega 360 helps people that are fishing more shallow. Do you have any experience with 360?
I do. I have several, buddies of mine that have it, and I'll tell you, really, I think my favorite thing with the 360 would probably like hydrilla. Those lakes, like in Florida or Garnersville, being able to see all the grass edges and the holes in the grass or the scattered grass, anything like that. But man, it really just it pops. It's so easy to see. It's pretty awesome. Yeah. But I mean, there's other times that I've been out on ledges with guys that, I mean, you see a stump on the side of a ledge that you really couldn't see with Panoptics, and it's good technology. I can say that.
Yeah, I got to use it for the first time the other day for a full day, being in the boat, getting after it, and actually we weren't out there for a full day. We were out there for a few hours, but we were we were able to find some really good rock piles, like big rock piles, and we also fished another where we found some brush piles. Now, I knew these rock piles were there, I knew these brush piles were there, but the thing that really impressed me with that 360 was I never made a cast where I didn't hit the cover. And the way that 360 works, well, when your boat shifts, it shifts where that cover is on your screen, so you can always know exactly what angle you need to make that cast at to hit that cover. And that is going to make you way more efficient. And anytime you put your bait in a prime spot a bigger percentage of the day, you're going to have more success.
Absolutely. There's no pulling up anymore to, all right, I think that brush pile should be somewhere in there. Oh, we got it about the fourth cast. No, we hitting it.
Yeah. And that's crazy, man. That's crazy to think how, and that's a game changer in of itself. I'm not convinced. I want to go through all these electronics and get my eyes and my hands on all of them before I make my final say on this, but I'm not so sure that the best electronic setup might be a Lowrance on the dash because of functionality, ease of use, customization of waypoints and all that, and a 360 and a live scope up front so you can see all the structure around you and you can see the fish wherever you point your live scope.
Absolutely. That's what it's. Every company to me, it definitely has their own advantage, and there's a reason Jacob Wheeler, decided to do that this year.
Yeah.
He knows.
Hard to argue with that guy.
I promise you, I'm not arguing with him.
All right, we got a little bit of technique talk coming in. Question: talking about the jerkbait. Can you give us some jerkbait tips for the wintertime, and what is your jerkbait setup?
Really, be honest with you, the jerkbait, gosh, that is such a loaded question. If you knew how many hours I've thrown a jerkbait, but I usually use it on the 6'9" fighter rod, the Dowel Tatulas. I like it on that rod for like the mega bass, I guess, style jerkbaits. Now, if I go to a bigger jerkbait or places like down in Florida where there's a lot of grass, I'll switch it up. But most of the time, it's your typical 6'9", 6'10" foot medium rod, 12-pound test. But in the wintertime, I'm not a very patient guy. So you hear the guys talking about waiting 2 or 3 seconds. Oh my gosh.
I know. I'm with you.
Nuts.
I'm with you.
If it stops, that's me giving it time. That's slowing it down.
Bro, I watched.
You got to do that in the wintertime.
I watched a fishing show one time, and they were talking about they had to wait 7 to 8 seconds on the jerkbait pause, and I was like, I'm never throwing jerkbait ever.
Oh my gosh, no, we ain't playing that game. I had a buddy of mine said he'd smoke about half a cigarette in between on letting it pauses. It's like, well, yeah, that ain't my style.
Why don't we just go get some daggum shiners if we're going to do all that?
Yeah, I don't know, why not sit up? You can go deer hunting and watch the grass grow for that.
Yeah, 100%. So 6'9" medium, 12-pound test, and even in the wintertime, you fish the jerkbait a lot in the wintertime, I'm assuming. You really don't slow down a lot in the wintertime?
I definitely do slow down, but what changes the most for me is my cadences. Because, in the summertime, spring, when the fish are more active, obviously, it's a lot harder of a jerk. During the wintertime, it's more of the light taps. And I'm just not actually moving the bait when I'm jerking it very far in the wintertime. I'm still, going at a steady speed, but I'm just not pulling it as hard as that makes sense.
So more subtle, less aggressive twitches on your
A lot more subtle. Because, sometimes in the summertime, I'm ripping my arm off.
I hear you. So I wasn't much of a jerkbait fisherman once upon a time, and when I decided to really, okay, I've got to at least have some jerkbait game in my arsenal if I want to do this, right? So I literally did it in the fall, like in the peak of the fall bite, because I felt like I could fish it fast, and I went out there and I was jerking the paint off that sucker, Jack. And I caught him, and I found the faster I jerked it, the faster I caught him. And so that's kind of how I started fishing a jerkbait. And I've adapted over time, and I will in the wintertime, like you say, I'll pause it a little bit. But I don't think there's ever been once in my life that I've paused a jerkbait for 4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah, I don't think. If if I did, it's because I was taking off my bibs or something from the morning.
Yes, that's greatness. All right. Oh, Walters joined us. He said Hamner's a legend. Oh, Walters is in the comments. That's great.
His shorts are a legend.
His shorts are a legend. I was worried we were going to have to change the rating category on Bassmaster Live at Lake Fork, I'm going to tell you.
He ain't scared to get down with it, I can tell you that. The shorter they are, the more scared you need to be.
A couple times when he was landing fish, I was like, man, I don't think my kids can watch this.
I had to cover my wife's eyes.
I know. I hear you. Oh, man, those shorts are a legend, no doubt. So, all right, Big C's got another good question here. Can Justin talk about sitting out on Lake Tuscaloosa with Carl Hamner, dragging a Carolina rig, and realizing his dream of making it to the elites?
Man,
this guy's done some research.
I like it. That's my man. Carl Hamner, that's my dad, obviously. He's the one that got me all started, and he made me throw a Carolina rig so much that it's hard for me to throw it now. And I know y'all Texas guys, y'all all about that Carolina rig too. But
we do.
It didn't matter if it was spring, summer, winter. We were throwing a Carolina rig, and we were going to catch some fish. But but Lake Tuscaloosa, that's, like I said, that's my home lake, and my dad, he's always loved bass fishing and always been my biggest fan. There ain't no doubt about that. So, but yeah, that's where it all started.
That's great, man. That was probably my favorite part of the Texas Fest weekend was on Sunday, and I don't know if Patrick, I think maybe I told Patrick this when we talked on the podcast, but right on the Sunday weigh-in, on the final day weigh-in, right before they did the weigh-in, when they were kind of coming in and things were getting ready to roll at weigh-in, I caught Patrick's dad and pulled him off to the side, and I got to talk to him on camera and interview him just for a minute or two. But his emotion, and he didn't let a lot of it out when I was talking to him, but you could just, it was all over his face, the amount of pride and the family connection. For so many of us, most people, I think, start fishing with their father. I did, you did, most of us do. And so when it culminates into the highest level of success like Patrick achieved, and like you have now gotten really close to achieving, I mean, you got one more ladder, rung on the ladder to climb, and you're there too. That's got to be just an unbelievable emotional connection between a father and son, and you could see it all over Patrick's dad's face. That's my favorite part of the whole weekend.
It's absolutely, and I love Todd. Todd is the man. I'll go ahead and tell you that. He is the man. But they know what we put into it more than anybody, and for them to be the ones that, get us started and their love and their passion for it, and to see us being successful. I mean, I'm a dad now. I've got a little girl. It's just something about it. There's no other feeling out there. There's no doubt about that. And to see it all come together is pretty awesome. It's something you can share with them. It's not like, I'm out there NFL Sunday playing with whatever. It's something that when I go home, we go and hook the boat up and heading down to the river, enjoying what we love together.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's in a lot of ways, it can be better for a lot of children than hunting is, because to a lot of kids, hunting can be kind of boring. But fishing, man, it's fun for the kids. It's like the best thing for fathers and children to have quality time. Fishing is probably the best activity there is. They get to ride in a boat. You get to throw, especially bass fishing. You chunking and winding, so you're active. You're not ever just sitting down being bored. And it's just such a great activity for kids. And I've gotten to do it with my two boys. And I've got a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. Just turned 8, actually, Friday. But I've done it with them some, and I don't get to do it near as much as I would like to ever since I started doing it as a job. But, man, every time I get to go do it with them, they love it. And, of course, as dads, there's nothing better for us than to get to hang out with our kids and have them enjoy something that we enjoy as well.
Absolutely. And like you said, I mean, even if it's brim fish, whatever it takes, just get them out there. Get them away from the daggone video games and all that mess. I mean, it's hard to beat.
On the creeks and off the streets. That's where we need them.
There you go. That's it.
So this is something that I've heard a lot, and since you have obviously a lot of experience with live scope, you've got a lot of success with live scope. So what I want to ask you is, there, and this came in a question. Someone was asking about the question, or asking about, or talking about how live scope seems to be more effective for crappie fishing, and I think for a long time, and maybe still the general public probably thinks that live scope is more of a crappie fishing tool. But what guys like you and Patrick and a few others have proven now is it's not just for crappie. It works really well for bass. Can you talk about some of the myth versus fact in that?
Yeah, and that's what I did see a lot of that too. Really, to me, it once you play with it and learn it enough, where you can start distinguishing between the types of fish, because it's showing them all. There ain't no doubt about that. But when you can get to where you can recognize, turn over there and look under a boat dock and see, oh yeah, there's a school of crappie, or oh, there's a couple bigger bass. That's when you start, to me, really becoming successful with it. When it starts saving you time, instead of you staring at it the whole time and trying to dissect every little thing. When you can just keep going at a steady pace and really learning that's when it starts getting good.
Yeah. So what are the key components to distinguishing species? Like on a traditional 2D sonar, I look a lot at the density of the arcs, the height of them, not the width of them. And then also when I'm looking at schools of fish, bass will tend to position a little bit differently on sonar than other species will. Crappie will be tighter together, sand bass will be tighter together, yellow bass will be flatter, and bass have kind of a distinct spacing and shape to their school on 2D sonar. What are the key components for live scope to be able to determine, is that a bass or is that a whatever?
Well, I mean, the crappie, they're still kind of like when you do see them on your down imaging or something, how they kind of stack up. It's going to be like that on the live scopes. They really just start getting in more balls, is what it kind of looks like on the live scope. And the same thing for like white bass. They get in those groups where they're just so tight together. And you might see that every once in a while with some of those smaller bass that are schooled up. I've seen it a few times where I thought it was, white bass or something. But most of the time, the bass, they're going to be traveling in smaller groups, 5 to 10. But they're going to have some space between them. And really, it's just about getting out there and learning the size difference, because you can start telling, the differences in the size a lot of times.
Okay. So it sounds like some of the similar traits that we see on other electronics can help you with the Garmin as well, the spacing and things like that. So
absolutely.
Yeah. That's good. That's good stuff, man. That's probably that's the best live scope tip I've ever gotten. So I can count all the live scope.
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah. Don't tell anybody. Don't worry, I won't tell nobody. Wait, we just told everybody.
They're all bass and just casted them all.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We got a new supporter in Tiger Muskie, man. He's talking about taking his kids out in the outdoors. That's great stuff, man. Taking the kids out is great. Big C's back again with another one. He said, Justin is quoted as saying, Lake Tuscaloosa gets a lot of credit for teaching me how to grind, which you alluded to that earlier, through a tough tournament. Big C wants to know, can you expand on the mental aspects of how you focus on grinding in a tournament?
Really, it's about being confident. You know how much mental this sport really is.
Yes.
And to not just, totally freak out. It's 12 o'clock, I don't have a fish. You can't just start freaking out and doing all that. Like, I forget which tournament it was. It was last year at the James River, the tidal fishery. It was 2 o'clock and I was due in at 3:15, and I didn't have a single fish. And my dude, coming there, oh man, I hate that for you. It's all good. We still fish until the last minute. Just keep it together. And then finally that tide got right where I wanted to be. And 15 minutes later, I'm leaving with, I've done cold 2 or 3 times. So,
yeah.
It's just knowing, staying confident in what you're doing, but at the same time being able to adapt and figure out where, what else to do if you do need to change, and learning when to change.
Yeah,
I guess that's
there's so many of those stories out there, like you just told the guys, and I think every professional angler, would speak to that fact of how important confidence is, and I would as well as a guide and everything else. But it seems to me that the confidence is so important. Like when you're confident, when you are fishing confidently. Let's say you've had a little run of success and you're fishing confidently, and you show up to a tournament and you're struggling, you're not catching them. Like I don't know about everybody else. Maybe it's just my own like arrogance inside my own head. But like if I'm fishing confidently and I'm struggling in my head, I'm like, well, it's just tough. Ain't nobody else catching them either. I just need to keep grinding. I just need to keep going because if it's this tough on me, it's just this tough on everybody, and we just got to keep going. But when you're not confident and you start struggling in a tournament, you go, golly, they're probably catching them, and I'm so far behind. And then you start this whole mental spin out process, and then you're done.
Yeah, then you start trying to figure out what you think that somebody else is doing, and oh yeah, they got to be catching like this. I know. Yeah, that's the world's worst thing that you can have happen. Do what you like to do and what you feel confident in. And that's why I say like Lake Tuscaloosa, because all these lakes around here, I have confidence in 60 foot of water on Smith Lake throwing a drop shot as much as I do, up at Gunnersville punching mats and throwing a frog all day or out there on the ledges. I mean, it's just being able to learn kind of pretty much every aspect of the game and having confidence in it. That's when you can really do it.
Absolutely. We'll bring it back a little bit full circle. You talked about the versatility of the fisheries in Alabama, and man, that was way earlier in this discussion, but that is a really important factor, and that's one thing that I do love about Lake Fork. It is as versatile of a piece of water as I've ever been on. All year long, you can catch fish way offshore, deep water, or you can go back into the back of a creek in the dirt. There's always fish in all those water columns. Now, a lot of times there'll be more in one than the other, but there's always an alternative available on Lake Fork. And I think that's one of the things that helps it sustain the pressure that it does. But man, having that versatility of fishery, I feel like if you look at the guys that have come out of Lake Fork and some of the success they've had on tour, I think that's why you see that. It's such a great training ground when you get that versatility. And for young guys that are wanting to learn how to tournament fish, don't just fish the same stuff all the time. Yes, when you're fishing a tournament, fish what you're confident in, fish to your strengths. But when you're not fishing a tournament, push your limits, push your boundaries, go experiment, try to learn different techniques in fishing. And having a lake like Fork or a run of lakes like you have in Alabama, man, that's a huge deal.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what you got to push yourself and get outside of your comfort zone and make that your new comfort zone. That way, for whenever that situation arises, you're doing what you thought you needed to be doing, and instead of just spinning out and thinking they're offshore and go out there and not know what you're doing, be confident and being able to go out there and do that. That's what I would say to anybody that really wants to or is serious about it. You've got to be comfortable doing everything.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Well, Justin, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on here. We put this deal together kind of last minute. I certainly appreciate you coming on here. It was, when we talked to Patrick, he was pulling for you hard to get into the Elite Series. Man, how cool is it going to be next year to get to roll around the Elite Series with your boy?
Man, I mean, when we were doing this in the Opens, it's just like going out, hanging out with one of your best friends, just
that's great.
Having an awesome time. But now that we're going to be doing this with the Elite Series, we're about to have some real fun.
That's awesome. Are you going to fish the Opens and the Elites next year?
If we can make that money-wise happen. Yeah. Okay. Hopefully, but it's tough.
I hear you. No argument there. All right, brother. Hey, listen, we'll let you go. Justin, the Hamner. What's up with all you guys with the names? Like, I don't know who's got the better fishing name, you or Slapper.
Man, that was hard to beat right there.
I know. I mean, you're basically the Hammer. I mean, but we've already got Jamie the Hammer Hartman. Like, now we got double hammers. I don't know.
We're gonna have to fight for who gets.
Here's what I think. I think that you and Jamie Hartman need to have a one-on-one fish off on a lake that neither one of y'all have ever been on with no practice to decide who gets to use the nickname Hammer.
I'm down. You get that set up, and I'll promise you I will be there.
Well, I don't. Jamie Hartman's never called me, so we'll have to try and figure that out on the fly. We'll get to it.
Stuff.
Hey, brother, thank you so much for doing this. Best of luck, all you guys that are listening tonight. Be sure that y'all follow Justin Hamner. You got any social media stuff?
Yes, sir. On Facebook and Instagram, it's Justin Hamner Fishing.
Justin Hamner Fishing. Go give him a follow. Keep up with the guy when he goes out there next year. He's going to be looking at all them gadgets and gadgets on the front deck and catching them up. So y'all watching. Justin, thank you for joining us tonight, brother.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Anytime you need somebody, just give me a holler.
I will do it, brother. When you get down to Lake Fork, holler at me. We'll go fishing.
Hey, I'm definitely going to take you up on that one.
All right. Thank you, sir. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
So that was great, man. That was my first time ever speaking. Well, I spoke to him briefly before we started tonight on the phone. Got his contact through Patrick Walters, and they set it up all last minute, and that was great. Justin Hamner, first time I've ever spoken with him at length. Seems like an unbelievably great guy. I know he is a great angler. Seeing what he did in the Opens this year and just talking to other guys, he's one that you want to follow. So that was cool for me to get to talk to him. Hey, he gave us some good tips too. Now, I'm excited about what we got coming up with this electronic series. I think it's going to be some of the better video work we've done as far as informative go. And you guys know on this channel, we pride ourselves on being as informative as anybody ever has been in history. So that's what we're going to try to keep doing. We're going to focus on those electronics over this winter. It's the time of year, winter fishing, time of year to get all your stuff right. This is off season. It's not off season for me. We don't have no off season around here. We just fish year round no matter the conditions. But for a lot of people, it's off season. It's time to get your gear ready for next year. Electronics. A lot of people need to be thinking about what they're going to do with electronics next year with all these new technologies that are coming to the forefront in bass fishing. So we're going to focus on that. All right. See if I got any more questions. If you guys got any more questions or comments you want me to address, drop them in right now. We're getting ready to wrap this thing up tonight. Scott Martin knows how to use that Garmin. He sure does, and he's in the Elite Series as well. You know, that's a guy we need to try to talk to. I've got his number. We need to try and talk to Scott Martin on one of these podcasts. In fact, if you guys don't mind, if y'all are watching this after the fact, drop it in the comments and let us know what guest y'all would like to see on the Fish Life podcast. All right. Well, hey, don't see any more questions or comments coming in, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. And I'll just say thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate everything that y'all do for us here as always. I live my dream, man. I'm going to go fishing tomorrow, and I'm going to go fishing the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And I wouldn't be able to do it if it wasn't for each and every one of you that participate and watch all the content we put out. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so very, very, very much. Hey, we'll see you next time right here on your Lake Fork Guide.